You're listening to the Saluki Gamescast. This is episode 107 for Tuesday, March 18th, 2025. My name is Justin Young. Joining me as always are Alicia Utecht, Christina Ivey, and Mario Sanders. How are all of you doing?
Good. It's been a while since I think we've had all four of us.
Yeah,
because I feel like we alternated. We had 3 and 3 the 2 weeks before spring break.
Yeah, because I wasn't here the Tuesday before.
and then Mario took the week off.
Yeah.
And then it was spring break.
Yeah. It's been a while. We're good. I wish it was still spring break.
Spring break was not long enough.
It was
but, is it ever?
No.
And like as we're doing the podcast, your first comment is, "I still wish it was spring break." Okay, well,
Listen.
Sorry to have you in here. I took a week off. I wish it was still spring break. Look, I'm trying to make it as clear as possible. I do not want to be doing this podcast.
Oh man.
I didn't say that. I
don't want to be doing my other responsibilities.
Yeah. That's it.
I don't want to have to catch up on emails this afternoon.
Oh,
yeah. So we've been gone for a week, spring break. Anybody do anything fun, exciting over spring break? Alicia, I know you went home for a few days.
I did. I went home to Minnesota for 10 days, which this is the first time since COVID that I've gone home for spring break.
Oh, wow.
Because the COVID hit during my first year of my master's, and I went home right after spring break from that. But then, the entire rest of the time so it was really nice to go home. One of my friends from high school is getting married this summer, so I went home for her bridal shower.
Oh, cool.
And so...
Did y'all play ridiculous games?
Of course we did. We did...
I feel like bridal showers are basically Mario parties. It's a bunch of weird mini games.
A little bit, yeah. We did one where she had written out 5 questions and then gotten a friend to record her fiance's answers, and then we did her answers. We did bridal shower bingo, so you had to fill out a bingo sheet with all of the things that you thought she was going to get as presents, and then the first 2 people to get bingo won prizes. We did him or her for who's the early bird, who do the cats love more, stuff like that. And then we did bride trivia, so that was a lot of fun, and it was nice. My friend Lynn and I were kind of the MCs, so I used my MC privileges to cut in line and get more food, which was great. But
Cut in food where? Were you at a restaurant or?
No, but it was over lunchtime, so they'd set up lunch and everything, and
okay.
We got there early to help set up, and then stayed late to help take down. So I was like, I have to start MCing in 20 minutes. I am cutting in line and getting food. I don't care that there's a line. I'm cutting. But it was a lot of fun. I got to see, I see most of these people when I go home for winter or summer for a month, but it was still really nice to get to see everybody and get to hang out with them. And then the rest of the time, I didn't really advertise that I was going home, so I got to spend most of the time with just my family and with, like I said, that particular group of friends, because they all knew I was home for that. But I got to just hang out with my family, and that was really nice. Very needed.
Cool. That's good. I went home for a few days over spring break, and so I got to see some family and friends, so that was good. And now March Madness is starting this weekend. And I have a group of friends from high school. We do a pool every year. And so that's always kind of fun because it's sort of grown and become bigger over the years and everything. So we have quite a few people in it, and people get it. People aren't mean competitive, but people are very spirited in it, rooting for the teams and stuff. So that's always fun because we have an active chat that stays open, and people come kind of going off on that and everything through it. So it's always fun this time of year for that sort of thing.
SIUE made the tournament this year.
Oh, wow.
Did they?
Yeah.
Okay, I know who I'm putting going to number 1 because I have no loyalty to anyone. Wait, is Villanova in?
I don't think so.
Okay, then yep, SIU is going to number 1.
Yeah. Good luck with that one.
I didn't even know Villanova was a basketball school until I was going there. That's how little I know about basketball.
Murray State did not get in on the men's side, but they did on the women's side.
Yes,
and
love.
So that was exciting. But then they're playing Iowa in the first round. So one of my best friends went to Iowa and works there now. And so I messaged her and I said, I'm sorry, I'm going to actively root against you. Because last year I was rooting for Iowa, because they were one of the top teams and she was excited for them and everything. But this year, Iowa's going down in the first round.
Gotta go. No, I love that. That's the kind of competitive that I really enjoy being that kind of competitive where you're not gonna really fight about it, but darn if you're not gonna root for your team and kick the other team when they're down.
I mean, people in Kentucky are fanatical about basketball. Mm-hmm. It's insane. As somebody who grew up there and really likes basketball quite a bit, sometimes people in Kentucky scare me, how crazy they are. Duke beat Kentucky in the NCAA tournament 30 years ago, and people in Kentucky still swear a blood oath against Duke. People in Kentucky, Duke will just lose a game during the middle of the season. People in Kentucky, it'll be all over my Facebook, people going, this is a great day. My dog got run over, but it's okay because Duke lost.
Oh my God.
And I'm you people have got to come to grips with this. So the other day in the ACC tournament, Duke and Louisville were playing against each other for the championship.
Yeah.
So Kentucky fans, the only team they maybe hate more than Duke is Louisville. And so I said, it's the Sophie's choice for Kentucky's fan. And one of my friends responded and she said, this is not a choice. I want Duke to lose. If Duke was playing against Satan himself, I would root for Satan. And this is a very religious woman.
I feel it can't be. I mean, isn't Sophie's choice a choice between two children that she loves? I feel like this is the opposite of a Sophie's choice. So they're rooting for the meteor.
I mean, yes, it's the anti-Sophie's choice. I think everybody got the reference. This is more the ending of The Good Son, maybe.
Oh my gosh.
Thank you for Christina for being the one person who got that reference.
I'm very aware of that movie. That movie was. Plus, it's based on. I was a theater nerd at the time, and it's based off.
At the time?
Shut up, Alicia. You came back sassy. Look, I got to see my family. Now I'm going to be sassy.
All right, let's move on before Alicia and Christina come to blows over here. So let's talk about what we've been playing since we've had a week off. Alicia, what have you been playing?
So in spite of having a week off, I still have not turned on my Switch in a month. So it's still mostly been Pokemon TCG Pocket. But then I also downloaded a new to me phone game called Cat's Mansion, and it's just a merge game. You're just building things, you're making treats and building things for cats to come and hang out at your mansion.
Is it like Merge Mansion that they advertise all the time, where you go and live with a crazy old woman and she has all sorts of hidden passages in her house?
I don't think so.
Oh,
I'm not very far in. I think you're just merging things and you build a fish tank and then a fisher cat comes. Aww. And then you build a violin stand and a violinist cat comes and hangs out.
Oh, okay.
So yeah.
Wait. A violinist cat comes?
Yeah.
Do the other cats know where the violin strings came from?
Oh no. Oh no.
I don't know where the violin strings come from. What is
Violin
this?
strings are made from cat guts.
What?
Yeah.
I don't know if they still are.
Probably
they were
not.
at one point.
They were though. Like back in the day, that's what they were made from.
Yeah.
Oh no.
Oh, we've broken Alicia.
I have no words.
It's okay.
It's okay. It's just a phone game. I don't think that they made
Yeah.
violin strings from real cat guts for this game.
Yeah. But
No
they
cats were harmed in the making of this game.
but they should have known.
Like, what a twist that would be if, like, you're playing the game and one of the other cats is like, "What are you playing? How dare you?"
It turns into a game I would play. Cat's Mansion.
Oh man.
The violin cat from Bloomhouse.
The next Dead by Daylight character, the violin cat.
And it's just like a shadow of like a cat, like playing the violin.
I mean,
screechy music.
like, that might get me into Dead by Daylight.
But yeah, so it's very chill. It's very low key. Like I said, I'm not very far in it right now, so because I downloaded it like 2 days ago. But that's really been it. It's I'm working on a paper, on a revised manuscript that's due the 24th, so that took up a lot of my time that I was intending to like relax and play games and turn on my Switch again, and like no.
All right. So, Christina, how about you?
So I spent most of the break on the couch. So I visited in on my band and rock band. We Break from Mustaches is doing very well. Their tour is still highly successful.
What kind of music do they play?
Well, they're very eclectic.
I'm gonna guess rock.
Well, there's some country like sprinkled in. There's some. There's like classic and like they really like the Scorpions. No, but
I like that they're a cover band on tour.
Honestly, yes. And then speaking of Dead by Daylight, I played. So I had it on my PlayStation 4, and I know that there's a cross progression, like where if you are playing it on Steam, for example, if you link it to your PlayStation, it's like it keeps the same progression.
Right.
And I hadn't activated that so that's what kept me from downloading it on PlayStation on my PS5. But I finally linked that so that I can be even more lazy and just play it on my couch. And so I did that and played for a bit and dressed up one of my favorite characters in the new Iron Maiden t-shirt because I had not bought that yet, for her at least. And then yeah, that's it. Dead by Daylight and Rock Band.
I saw that the Hellraiser content was going away.
Oh yeah. So yeah, I need to buy that. So thank you. That's going away as of April 1st, and so it's one of those things that like when they lost. What's the 80s show on Netflix? The Stranger Things. Thank you. When they lost Stranger Things, like you could still keep the characters if you had purchased them. And the same thing's going to happen with the Hellraiser stuff. But essentially, Hellraiser, just like with the Jason and Friday the 13th stuff, it changed hands who owns the copyright. And so they're going to get rid of it. And so, yeah, which is sad because honestly, he's a really cool player. And like they did a good job of his different outfits are the different types of Cenobites.
Right.
Like they have the Chatterer as one, which is so creepy, but also really cool.
I also like that Cenobites, like actually spoken out, just sounds like something Cinnabon is selling.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Which I think would kind of be in a Cenobite fashion just because it sounds delicious, but is actually quite frightening and would take you to hell. And so...
They should do a cross promotion.
honestly, yes.
Cinnabon Cenobites.
I would eat there.
Isn't it all about like indulging? Isn't that what that whole film series is about?
Exactly. And Perfect. Yep. This all fits. So hit me up. No, don't hit me up. Hit the podcast up because this was not my.
Cinnabon, if you would like to sponsor this podcast.
Wait, Cinnabites. I'm pretty sure they sell those at Taco Bell. But yeah, the Tokyo Gold chapter. It looked cool. Because essentially they have the primary character is now a villain or a killer rather. But it's a flop. It's like basically the Legion, which is another killer 2.0 in terms of like his skills, and there were so many bugs in it that people had to quit playing.
Right.
Yeah.
All right. Is that it? Mm-hmm. Mario, what have you been playing?
Yeah, I played a pretty decent amount over the break. Just trying to make my way through this list of games for this March event. The last game I played was Four Swords, which was the multiplayer Zelda game that came out on the Game Boy Advance, like the pack-in with the Link to the Past on the Game Boy Advance. They have that on the Nintendo Switch Online. And so got to play that with 4 friends. I was talking to them. I was like, that was like when I was a kid, like a YMCA classic. We all brought our Game Boys and link cables and did the Four Swords. And so
that actually seems like a really good way to play that, because can't you play it online?
Yeah,
that where
exactly.
originally you had to be in person with 4 Game Boys.
Yeah, it actually worked for the most part pretty well. There's a little bit of lagginess to it, which I think is just Nintendo servers, but it was good. It was fun. It's a really quick, 2 hours probably experience. I know that they re-released it like an anniversary edition on the DS that allowed people to play single player. And I never did check that one out, but I know they like added content to it. But it was really fun to go back and play because I have good memories of playing that as a kid. And so that was a lot of fun. Otherwise, though, and I'm actually going to talk about a game that I played a while back that I had forgotten about that I don't think I ever talked about, is a game called Curse Crackers, For Whom the Bell Tolls. Bell, Belle. And it's a little indie game. It's on Steam. That's maybe like $5. But it uses the Game Boy Color like palette and aesthetic, and it's just a little like action platformer. It was a lot of fun. I don't really know what else to say about it. I don't know how long it took me, but I think the thing that's most impressive, I was talking to a friend because he really likes it and he recommends it just about anybody. There's so much more to do once you've beaten the game, which I think is, I know it's not actually a Game Boy Color game, but the base game maybe takes 3 or 4 hours, but there's so much more that can be done in terms of helping the like townspeople with their little problems and like bonus levels and difficulty like spikes in terms of those new areas. And so it's a lot of fun. And for
sort of like a modern Mario game.
Sure, yeah. And so for as cheap as it was, maybe I got it on sale. I don't remember how much it normally was or how much I got it for, but it's a cool little game. And I think it's probably about 5 or 6 years old now at this point. But yeah, it's a fun one.
That's interesting. I've heard of that game before. I've never played it, but I remember it being sort of talked about at the time as this like sort of under the radar gem that a lot of people hadn't heard of.
Yeah, that company or the studio that put it out, I think has put out 3 games now, and so I ended up buying the other 2. I haven't played them at all, but I think same thing, just in terms of like that style of the Game Boy Color is just very nostalgic. I have played video games obviously my whole life, but the first console I had was the GameCube. So a lot of my game playing when I was young was always on a Game Boy. And so oftentimes the Game Boy and the Game Boy Advance are the ones that I have the most nostalgia for. And so seeing that captured was very cool.
Yeah, and I mean that's very similar to what we see with a lot of retro games doing. Like it started off with the sort of 8-bit retro pixel art style games, and now we're seeing more of those games. Like, well, that's such a crowded area. How can we kind of stand out? And so we see people like trying to mimic the Game Boy games, right? And like what the aesthetic of Game Boy games, the aesthetic of PlayStation 1 games, which is really interesting. Because like you have different styles of like art, right? But that sort of comes in movements and everything. It's not so much. Now I'm sure an art historian would tell me that there are technical reasons why like art looks this way at this time and this time, but in video games it really is.
Yeah.
Right. But like now we have all these games like going back and we're going to be a modern game, but in a PlayStation 1 style, because there's that nostalgia for it. And now young people growing up are playing those games, these modern games in that style. So they're going to have nostalgia for that, 10, 15 years from now.
Well, I think and I don't know if they develop them with the limitations, and I don't know if they still put it out, but like every year, for probably 4 or 5 years, I'm not a horror person, so I never would really play them, but it was always fun to watch a little bit of them, were the haunted PS1 demo discs.
Right.
That, are sort of also just a throwback to the concept of, I bought this game magazine and it comes with a demo CD with like 4 little games or 5 little games. And some of those would have, those demo discs, at least for the new ones, the haunted PS1 ones, would have like 20 little games on it. And I always thought that, and like I said, I don't know if they would develop those games with the limitations of the PS1 or if it was just like sort of attempting to mimic. But I don't know. I really enjoy those developers who are doing that.
Yeah. I mean, it's certainly interesting. I mean, obviously, one of our games of the year last year was UFO 50, which is an entire game dedicated to that idea, right? And that game particularly is interesting because it's about the evolution. Like, it's not static of just one system. It's sort of the evolution, over a decade or so.
Yeah, and I think it just like, I guess it's kind of explicit. I guess I just appreciate that it challenges this notion that newer is always better, or like you always need to be improving or like making the graphics better or being as modern as possible. And I guess I just appreciate this. Well, what if we look back and emulate some of these old things and like kind of relearn from what we already have access to?
We've talked about that quite a bit, about how like so many games today look exactly the same, like them using Unreal Engine and stuff. And so there does seem to be this like artistic element of some of these nostalgic styles.
Yeah, and I think if you go back and you play older games, like I grew up, with an NES and grew up with an Atari, and like so I was during those generations and stuff. So I remember what it was like, but I'll go back and play some of those games now, and a lot of them don't hold up very well.
Yeah.
You like go, man, games are really bad back at this point. But then you play a game like, say, Mega Man 2. That does hold up. That is still an amazing game today.
Yeah.
And like if that game came out today, people would, I think, hopefully find it as a little indie game and be like, man, this game is amazing, right? And you look at how much they've tried to copy that. Other games have tried to copy Mega Man and mostly been unsuccessful in doing so. And I think it does speak to that idea of like newer is not always better, that, sometimes in the same way that a film from the 1940s can be sort of perfect, it doesn't need modern conventions. A game from the 1980s can be perfect. Or close to. I don't know if any game's perfect, but, certainly close to. All right, cool. Is that it?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I didn't play a whole lot. I think the last episode I had talked about Avowed. I did play some more of that over break, but I wasn't playing a whole lot of games. And I'm trying to remember what I've said about Avowed on here already because I don't want to repeat myself. It is very much in the sort of Elder Scrolls style of games. I think the thing I've talked about that I like about the game is that it's much more streamlined. So every time I play one of the Elder Scrolls games, Oblivion or Skyrim, I always get a few hours into it and kind of lose interest. And this one is much more streamlined, which is sort of a turnoff for some people, but I think is keeping me more interested. And the other thing I'll say about it that I don't think I've talked about is the combat is just so much better. The combat in this game is significantly better than it's ever been in any of those Elder Scrolls games, which I understand. Those games very much have their roots in, computer role-playing games. That's where they grew out of. That's where that whole series comes from. And so I feel like they've always been trying to sort of shake that loose, sort of in the way like Mass Effect did over the evolution of that game. Like you play Mass Effect 1 to Mass Effect 2. Mass Effect 2 is much more of a straightforward action game with RPG elements included. This feels sort of like that, where this is much more of a kind of action game with those RPG elements in there as well. And, I think that just makes it more entertaining because I feel like Elder Scrolls is sometimes you're just kind of hacking at stuff and like you don't feel like maybe you have the control, like the gameplay isn't there. It feels like sort of a burden to get out of the way, where this feels much more engaging as far as gameplay wise. So I've liked it quite a bit. I would highly recommend Avowed if you like that style of game, right? Yeah. And maybe if you like that style of game and like me, you find yourself sometimes losing interest as you play through one of those games. I think this one is capable of keeping you on board longer. Cool. And that is on Xbox Game Pass. So if you have that, you can play that for free in quotation marks. I know people get mad when you say for free. They're like, well, you are paying for that. And it's like, yeah, but I'm not paying individually for each game. So,
right.
All right, so let's move on to the news. And Alicia, I'm going to go ahead and front load this and say this feels like the most Alicia news episode that we've ever had. I feel like there are several things in here that you're going to be excited for.
Well, at least I'm going to have thoughts about.
So maybe not this first story, but Sony has formed Dark Outlaw Games. This is a new studio headed by Jason Blundell, who was one of the original creators of the Call of Duty Zombies mode. So I include this mostly because I think this is kind of interesting and neat, to see them. I think we've talked about that PlayStation is really suffering from not having that steady stream of games.
Yeah.
Xbox seems like they've set themselves up so that eventually they're going to be firing where there's a big AAA game maybe every quarter coming from them. They have the number of studios if they can get them all in line. And Sony has not seemed to have that. So to see Sony sort of like investing in starting up some new studios, we have another story in here too about that. I think seems like them acknowledging, hey, we need to be turning out more software. I don't know how excited I am for something from the Call of Duty Zombies guy.
Yeah, I was like, the name sounds cool, like Dark Outlaw Games, and then I saw COD Zombies, and I was like, oh, okay. The only thing that I guess concerns me about these stories is like we've also had quite a few on here about like particular like a lot of these are failing or not doing well or ending up getting moved to other places. So it's interesting that those stories happen at the same time that stories like this happen.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's kind of where I'm like, didn't they just shutter like the Concord studio?
Yeah.
And I mean, I understand people can view that game however they want, but it's like you're building a brand new studio. Maybe it's with people that already are there,
Yeah.
but it's like I'm
still
not
feels
sure if
kind-
I fully understand that decision.
Yeah, it feels kind of odd to build a brand new studio instead of flip over one that you already had. You know.
Yeah, because I mean, I think the question becomes: was the Concord studio so inherently broken in some way that they could not produce a good game, or was it that they just misfired?
Yeah.
That and maybe the question also becomes, we need to put some, what is that saying? Makeup on a pig or type of thing of like this.
Stick on a pig.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was like even if we keep this studio around, the next game is going to be from the people that made Concord, right? And like, is that going to also just like be a hurdle for them to overcome? Whereas if we make this new studio, maybe we rehire a lot of these people. I'd love to see that be the case. And
Yeah.
they have a brand new name that doesn't get necessarily holds them down.
If
I think
they
that's
did
maybe
that-
the most optimistic view I could take of it.
I'll say if they did that, they would have my respect, and I would probably buy the game regardless of whether I have the system or not, just to show support for actually giving a crap about your people.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know.
I
doubt,
doubt
but
it would happen.
that is the case. But like I said, I'll take the most optimistic view, I guess, possible.
I mean, I think you're right about the marketing potential, right?
Yeah.
Here's the latest game from the Concord people versus here's the newest game from the guy who created Call of Duty Zombies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, I don't think any of us are big fans of, but
No.
like that mode is incredibly popular.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah.
And other games like it are popular, right? If you don't like zombies, the specific Call of Duty, people like Left 4 Dead or the
Sure.
Dawns and stuff like that. So
Yeah. Let's see. Star Wars Hunters, the multiplayer shooter featuring Star Wars characters, is shutting down after only 9 months. I feel like this was announced last spring, it feels like. Maybe at the Star Wars Celebration.
I have some vague recollection of this, but not a deep recollection.
Yeah, and it had come out on mobile platforms and Switch, I believe, and they were prepping a Steam version, I believe, of it.
so this is like the Final Fantasy VII not MMO, but like the Battle Royale, in terms of it being like a mobile game.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I didn't realize that. I'll maybe be a little bit more understanding of it not having the player base, maybe.
I mean, that was my understanding, that it was a mobile first game.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean,
And also, Star Wars fans are just so pissy when they don't like something that.
well, and
And I say this as a Star Wars fan, but
I think this is sort of playing into, as we've talked about a lot, these live service games.
yeah,
Right?
Yeah.
everybody wants to be Fortnite, and
I mean, in some ways, 9 months is like, all right, that's not bad.
yeah,
Right?
Yeah. I
Compared
mean, we were
to-
just talking about Concord, right?
Yeah.
9 months versus 2 weeks.
Yep.
That's
yeah.
pretty good.
Yeah, I feel like if you could get,
They took it to term.
yeah, I feel like if you could, if you could last about a year as a live service game, like maybe that's the goal, right? We're not looking for 5 years or 10 years of support, but like if we can just get like a solid year, we can make money off of this thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know that they are making money. Like,
Yeah.
maybe that is the way the economics need to be sort of rejiggered, right? Like that they need to figure out, like, okay, this game might run a year or two tops. Can we make money in that time?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because these games don't seem to be working.
Well, and like maybe that's a more realistic goal
Right.
as well. I mean, like,
Yeah.
I have to imagine the like dream is we could be the new Fortnite.
Sure.
But like a realistic goal is if we can get 1 year of a solid player base, that's a success. That's a win. And
Yeah.
if the finances say that.
But I mean, that's the classic multiplayer game then.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I mean, if that's your goal, that's the classic multiplayer game. Put it out at $50 and have DLC for it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, but like we know that that wasn't working either, right? Like there's a reason that Call of Duty, the maps are free now. And the reason was that people weren't buying the maps, right? And like if you weren't buying the maps and everybody was playing on these 3 or 4 new maps, then you just basically quit playing. And so it just feels like this problem of how do you attract a multiplayer fan base that will stay with your game.
Yeah.
And, you know, I don't even know that these games are bad in a lot of cases. Because, like, by all accounts, Concord was not a bad game.
Yeah. It's just a saturated market, right? You know, and the games that are at the top are like very established at this point, you know, with your Fortnites and your CSGO and Valorant and all those types of games. They're like well established. And so I think it's just like and Marvel Rivals is like in there right now, but that's Marvel and they've got essentially like infinite money to throw behind it. If that's just like some random made up characters, I imagine it's probably not nearly as popular or successful.
It's probably an equal quality game, but not the attention that Marvel gets.
And so I think it's a really hard market to get into, and I think I can understand a studio or like Sony saying, "Hey, let's try and make like 1 or 2 of these a year."
Right.
But when you're devoting the percentage of money, I forget whatever that percentage was that we had talked about a while back at this point.
Well, they were doing 12 games at one point.
It was like 12 years over like a 3-year span, 12 games over like a 3-year span or something like that. I feel like the number was something like 60% was going towards these games as a service. And like, that's a big gamble. I mean, like literally.
Yeah.
And so I wonder if, and we've talked about it a lot, if there's going to be some pullback, like we'll try 1 or 2. And again, if we can get a year, great. But yeah.
You know, when talking about like esports and these games as a service, which I think more and more there's this sort of like bleed over between the two, right? Like it's more and more difficult to distinguish them, right? I know they're not the same, but to some degree. I wonder if like talking about games as a service, we really need to talk about it more as the equivalent to sports. So like Fortnite is your NFL, right? And if you all of a sudden want to throw a bunch of money into the XFL to launch it and to be a competitor or to replace it, right? Like to think about how staggering of a challenge that's going to be, because the people who are playing Fortnite, they're not playing it in the way that people used to play Halo, I don't feel.
Yeah.
Like, sure, it is a part of their culture in a way that's very different than traditional multiplayer games. Like they're getting up every day and playing it. Like in the way that people play Minecraft. Like my nephew still played Minecraft. I feel like they've been playing Minecraft for the last decade, which is probably accurate.
Yeah.
And, when I was home at Christmas, I was asking them, hey, what are you playing? And they say Minecraft. And I said, really? And they're like, well, what's wrong with that? And I was like, there's nothing wrong with it. I'm just genuinely surprised you haven't moved on to something new. And, I feel like the same thing with Fortnite, that when I talk to some people and they're like, yeah, I'm playing Fortnite. I'm like, really still? And they're like, yeah, like this is what I do. This is what my friends do.
That's kind of how I feel about like League of Legends and World of Warcraft too, where it's like those games, like when you're in it, you are in it.
Yeah, I mean, World of Warcraft, right, is sort of probably the OG example of this before.
It becomes, I like how you mentioned friends, because it becomes like their social time. Like it not all of them, obviously, but the ones where, like Fortnite, I was thinking my tattoo artist from Boise sometimes messages me, and that's the only time I play Fortnite is with her and her group. So
Or
Yeah.
Dead by Daylight for you, right?
Yep, for me, that was how I spent my Valentine's Day with my partner, was playing Dead by Daylight. So yeah,
That's the most appropriate thing for you.
honestly, yeah, for both of us. Like if you knew Melissa, it'd be the same way. But yeah, it's also the social part of it, and so it's difficult when starting a new. It's like moving to a new school, right? Or convincing your friends to also pick up the game.
Yeah.
Which can be difficult for a variety of reasons.
Right.
Yeah, and I mean, I guess to be fair, when we talked about Sony and the questioning their decision, I mean, certainly by our judgment, based on our game of the year, and a lot of people, I mean, Helldivers was a massive success for them, and I mean that's essentially what it is. I mean, it costs $40, but so it's not to say that it can't be there, but Helldivers is a massive success. Was a massive success for some number of months. I know a lot of people still play it, but it doesn't nearly have the fervor that like it had at the beginning, right?
Yeah,
And so,
for sure.
maybe again the goal is a year, but maybe instead it's if we can get 3 months, 2 months of just like this is the only game that people are talking about, and then even if that number drops off a cliff, but it's still sustainable for another 6 months or 7 months or a year. Great. That's fantastic. Because I think that's probably where Helldivers is right now.
For sure.
Yeah.
And I think that's more doable with Helldivers when you have an upfront charge.
Yes.
Sure.
Yeah.
Right? Like they made their money off everyone who bought a copy of that game.
Yeah.
And so it didn't matter if you bought any of the DLC.
Right.
Yeah, I never spent any money on that game outside of the initial purchase, and totally fine.
But I feel the same way about Minecraft, right? Like Minecraft, they make their money you buying a copy of that game or buying multiple copies across multiple systems, right? And so you can buy the DLC from it, but like you don't have to, right? They've already made some money off of you. And maybe that sort of structure is really what these games need more of.
And part of me wonders if in this particular case, if your understanding is correct, if it being a mobile game is more what did this one in. Because we talk about
I didn't
like
realize it was a mobile.
we talk about Marvel. Star Wars is as big as Marvel is, and has obviously Disney backing it, as well. So, part of me wonders if this was you're playing this on Steam or you're downloading a client, if it maybe would have been more successful. But I don't know.
Well, speaking of diehard fan bases, Undertale has hit a new record concurrent players on Steam of 10,739. This is particularly notable because that game came out 10 years ago. And so part of the way that people are explaining this is the Steam spring sale is going on. The game.
I was going to say the game was literally $1. It's cheaper than eggs.
Yeah, so
Literally
the game
stole
is
that from Shay.
The game is selling for 99 cents, and so that's certainly part of it. But when we talk about like part of the reason these new games aren't selling super well, it's because a game like Undertale that's 10 years old is having its biggest success right now. So like people are playing games longer, and the games have a longer shelf life than they ever have before.
It's also just a known entity, right? Like people have heard of Undertale. I know how good Undertale is. I've never played it, but I know how good it is. Oh, sure, it's 99 cents. Yeah, I'll pick it up. Right?
Yeah.
Well, and especially right now with Deltarune chapters 3 and 4 coming this year.
Yeah.
And Toby Fox is a troll and keeps Deltarune tomorrow? Deltarune tomorrow? I swear he's gonna finally tweet that on April Fool's Day, and then chapters 3 and 4 are going to drop April Fool's Day evening or something like that. Like that's the kind of stuff he would do. But with that, knowing concretely that is coming, that they are so close to releasing it, and knowing that these are parallel games, you want to go revisit Undertale, and maybe you watched a playthrough before, but hey, now it's 99 cents and now I'll buy it.
Yeah, I didn't even know it was 99 cents. Honestly, I assumed it was. If I would have seen this, I would have assumed, 3 and 4 is like imminent. Like we
Yeah.
got like a date release or something, and so
Deltarune
people
tomorrow?
are like revisiting. I imagine a lot of these are probably people who've played it before.
Yeah.
But knowing that it was 99 cents, there probably is a lot of new people as well then.
I would say, and a lot of the big, Undertale streamers and YouTubers posted about it being 99 cents. So a lot of the people who've watched then saw that it's 99 cents and more buying that way too.
And I'm going to ask you a question because I know you'll know the answer. Yellow is like a fan game?
Yellow is a fan game.
Okay. I ask because I know just like last week or 2 weeks ago, the Games Done Quick people had their Frost Fatales marathon, which is a speed running of all women runners, and Undertale Yellow was one of those games. And so I didn't know if that was a legit, I mean, it's legit, but I didn't know if it was like a properly released thing or if it was a fan game.
Yeah, it's a fan game, but it's one that they started in like 2018. So it was a 7-year journey to make it happen. And it's phenomenal. Highly recommend.
Yeah, and I think one of the things that's particularly interesting about this to me is this is not a multiplayer game. This is a single player game.
This is 10,739 people playing on their own.
But like, if you told me a multiplayer game all of a sudden had its highest peak now because it's on sale, like I would be like, okay, well that makes sense. Like people are buying it for a friend and giving a copy and everybody's getting online and playing it. But this is a single player game. So like, yeah, people who originally owned this on the PlayStation 3 might be buying a copy again on Steam or something and replaying it because the new games are coming out, right?
Deltarune tomorrow.
Like, I get that, but like, it doesn't, for it to have this moment right now is really kind of interesting.
It is kind of wild. And it makes me wonder if we'll see this repeat again when Chapter 5 of Deltarune drops, and then again when Chapter 6, and again when Chapter 7, or...
So how many chapters are supposed to be?
7. Yeah, and it was originally supposed to be...
That's coming out in like 2040?
Yes, right. Yeah, it was originally supposed to be 3, 4, and 5 all released concurrently, and then last year, a year and a half ago, Toby was like, yeah, we need to just... focus on 3 and 4 if we're going to get this out in a fairly reasonable amount of time.
That's fair.
Let's see. Sony has demoed a version of Horizon's Aloy, using AI. So this is they demonstrated a version of the character who was talking and interacting. It was all powered by AI. This is particularly kind of slimy or interesting, depending on how you want to phrase it, because this is going on during the SAG-AFTRA strike that is currently going on among voice actors against the video game industry. That strike is about the use of AI and wanting the actors union wanting guarantees about AI not being used to replicate their voice, not being used to replicate maybe their image in games. And so they took this character and used her to demonstrate AI. This character is voiced by a voice actress, Ashley Birch. And Ashley Birch did say that Guerrilla Games, who makes Horizon, reached out to her and said, we did not use any sound clips from you in training this AI. I don't know how true that is, but
I don't know.
They at least preemptively reached out to her and spoke with her. But she did release a statement, a video online talking about this. I want to read just a little bit from her. She said, I feel worried, and not worried about Guerrilla specifically or Horizon or my performance or my career specifically even. I feel worried about this art form, game performance.
Yeah. I mean, I really try not to be crazy like, AI taking over the world, scary, but this is concerning.
Yeah, I mean, I think I think when you start thinking about making say a Final Fantasy game, right, where you have the potential of hundreds of characters, right, and so you have the shopkeepers and the townspeople that you talk to and everything, and okay, we want to have all these characters voiced, right, like ideally, and the cost and the time and everything to do that. When you start thinking, well, AI can do that for us, right? We could just feed these lines in and AI could give us, we can say, speak with a German accent or something, and it'll pump out the voice for these lines. You can start seeing the appeal to game developers of that.
Well, and even there's a little part of me that's like, I could see the appeal as a player when AI gets far enough to back in when Final Fantasy VII, for example, first released, you could rename all the characters. So you could do whatever. And so if AI got far enough where now you take characters and that are voiced and you name your character whatever the heck you want, and they speak your character's name in their dialogue.
Right. I mean,
that would be neat, but
if you're playing NBA 2K right now and you create a player, if you have a common name and put it in there, like Mario Sanders, I'm sure they could say that name because they actually have the announcing team record all the players' names, but they have them record a bunch of other generic names, right? So they can call you in the game. So if you have Mario Sanders as a player, it'll say your name and everything.
And I think that's one of the big reasons why Pokemon, despite everyone begging for voice acting, I think that's one of the big reasons Pokemon hasn't, is because of the ability to do a unique player name and trying to build that in. But
right. I think that's a real appeal to players for a sports game in that example, right? But I also think it is always jarring to me in modern games when some of the characters talk and some of the characters don't.
Yeah.
So I get the appeal here.
Yeah. It also, so I watch a lot of indie horror games, and a lot of them use AI for voice, and you can tell it's AI. The inflection's not quite right, things like that. So the fact that Sony released one of their big games using this also makes me nervous, because that means that certain aspects of the technology have at least gotten enough to where they're like, this will do for one of their bigger games.
Well, we had the story a few weeks ago where Harrison Ford was praising the voice actor for the Indiana Jones game and said, this is what stops AI. Because AI can't replicate. Why do you need AI? I think is actually what he said, when you can get a voice actor who can replicate me so well.
Yeah.
And, I look at that and I go, well, yeah, the voice acting in that game is amazing. It's Troy Baker, I think, is the voice actor.
That sounds right.
And he does such a good Harrison Ford impersonation. You would be hard pressed to know it's not Harrison Ford.
Right.
And, Ashley Birch, I don't like her character in Borderlands. Was it Tiny Tina? Is her character?
That's sure.
That's who that was?
Yeah. And
not the movie.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. In the video games.
Okay. I was like, do I remember anything from this movie?
But anyways, I don't like her in that game. But in the Horizon games, she does a really good job, right? She does a good job of voicing that character, and I think you're right. I haven't heard an AI yet that can do the emotion right. They can get the words out right often, but getting the emotion, the humanness in it. This is coming. Yeah. We talked about it with Microsoft. We talked about it with Sony now. Nintendo's the one company that's out there going, hey, we have no real interest in this, which just means that after everyone else does it, Nintendo will be 20 years behind them.
Yeah. Nintendo doesn't use voice acting in many other games anyways.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a me.
No.
Sure.
Next week, we find out that all the flowers in Super Mario Wonder were voiced by AI.
I mean, like you talking about.
Are you
Sorry,
good,
I
Christina?
can't get over the fact that it sounded like a question. It's a me. Sorry. Okay, we can go back.
Are you good?
Yeah, I'm good now. I just had to say it.
Well, he said there's no voice acting.
Oh, I know.
Well, I mean, I have
He
to
said there's not a
imagine.
lot of voice
I
acting.
imagine they recorded that probably 25 years ago and are still using the same voice.
No, it's
I mean,
a
I
new
know they
voice
have a new
actor.
guy. I know they have a new guy.
No, Martin A
but-
re-recorded for everything. If you ever look up the unused voice clips from Sunshine, it's amazing.
I mean, look, they paid that guy to go wah.
a lot.
Yeah, different inflections
Yes.
and everything.
Okay, now do it mad.
I mean, what a gig, right? Yeah, I mean,
I don't know that AI could deliver all those wahs appropriately.
not with the emotion, right?
Yeah.
So, anyways, this is coming one way or another.
Yeah.
More of a reason to sort of root for, I think, the actors union in this case, that they get some of these guarantees. Let's see. Saber Interactive has stated that Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic remake is still in development. So this is one of those we heard about several years ago.
I was going to say, I forgot it was even in development. It's been so long.
And then it kind of disappeared and nobody talked about it. And there were questions of surely they have canceled this, but they're claiming they're still working on it.
Yeah.
More power to them.
At the same time, Saber Interactive has announced that Warhammer 40K Space Marine 3 is now in development. This seems like the least shocking news after Space Marine 2 was a big hit last year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But good, because that was a very much sort of double A size game that found an audience, and it would be neat to have that size of games again getting made. Mm-hmm. Not everything needs to be that $200 million game. So we talked about Sony forming a new studio. They have also teamed up with People Can Fly. This is the developers behind Bulletstorm, some of the ports of Gears of War. They're also working on the new Gears of War, which is called E-Day. And they are working with Sony on a PlayStation franchise. So an already established PlayStation franchise. So we have a developer who makes first-person games working on an established Sony franchise. What do you think it is?
Yeah.
I mean, Killzone seems like a possibility. Guerrilla
Yeah.
Games is busy, so they're not making a new Killzone most likely. So it could be Killzone.
I think I'm just outside of like the top PlayStation franchises. I'm not sure
Yeah.
what some of those secondary franchises
Yeah,
would be.
that's where I'm at.
And I don't
Could
and,
be Resistance, their
and
alternate World War II history series
yeah.
with aliens.
Well, especially with Bulletstorm, Gears of War. I can see that.
I think it's interesting. I mean, it's interesting to team with them on an established franchise.
For sure.
absolutely. And I think my hope is that it would be one of those lesser known franchises
Yeah.
or franchises that haven't maybe gotten something in recent years.
Yeah.
Right.
You know, outside of like I said, the ones that we know. In terms of like, you know, your God of Wars, your Horizons,
Yeah.
those that are sort of at the very top.
Maybe they're doing the new Sly Cooper.
Maybe they're making a
I wish.
intense Gears of War aesthetic ape escape game.
Dark Ape Escape.
You didn't have this super buff, jacked guy chasing after apes. They're no longer these cute little things with like sirens on their head. No, this is a literal gorilla you are chasing after.
It's just the movie Congo, man. Not the book Congo, the bad movie Congo.
There's got to be like a mod for that where I can get Marcus Phoenix chasing after the apes, right?
I mean, we can all dream, right? Is it Dave Bautista?
Yeah.
It's Marcus Phoenix chasing the apes.
There we go.
Yeah, so that's interesting. It'll be interesting to see what they're working on. Let's see. DC and Sonic the Hedgehog have teamed up together for a 5-comic book series that releases, let's see, tomorrow. This is like basically they are the Justice League teamed up with the Justice League. Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I've got some pretty massive... No, I have no idea.
I was ready for you to go off.
Mario is the biggest Green Lantern fan there is. He's got pots.
No, I think this is going to be fun, honestly. I mean, we talked about it when they first announced it, and I texted you all because when I was at home, we went to the comic book store, and so, of course, my sister put them all on hold for them to pull, so... Yeah, I think this will just be like a fun little thing, you know. You get to see if Sonic or the Flash is faster.
So true.
I've had this question for so long. Finally, I can rest in peace. Are they going to cheap out, though? Is it going to be a tie? Because isn't that what they did with
That's
the
what
Flash
they always
and
do with
Superman?
Flash and Superman. Although, honestly...
Depends on who's spending more money here. Sega or DC putting more money into this project?
DC, they're the ones printing it.
There you go. The Flash is winning.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I mean, like Sega as a company right now is doing better than Warner Brothers is. So,
I mean, technically, the Flash can run as fast as he thinks he can run. So if he thinks he can run faster than Sonic, he should be able to. But
And also,
Yeah, but
in
this
the
is
new
one of those-
Sonic games, you don't run that fast.
but this is like one of those things about like God. Can God make a box he can't open? Well, he's God. He can do anything. But like, right?
Yeah.
So like, is Flash basically God in this situation?
So also, does that mean that Flash is like so humble that he doesn't think he's faster than Superman? If he can be as, I think I know how fast Superman is. Well, I think I'm a little bit faster than that. Is he just like no?
I think he has. I think he has to be able to actually do the math in his head.
I see.
Okay, so like, I feel like in that case that Sonic could distract him if he's having to do math in his head.
Yeah. Well, he doesn't
Look at
have
his
to
cute little
do the,
hedgehog in his tennis shoes.
he doesn't have to do the math in that moment. He just has to have been able to do the math and figure out how fast he would be.
But what if what if Sonic gets Knuckles to take him out drinking the night before?
Well, the question is, I think that also is definitely going to happen. Which Justice League character is going to offer Sonic the Hedgehog a chili dog? That's the question I want answered.
But will that act
Better
as
be Nightwing.
Moss and make him go faster? Like gas?
Oh, I think it's definitely like the post-race celebration is
Yeah.
chili dogs.
I was gonna say,
And-
yeah, it should be Wally West versus Sonic the Hedgehog for the race, and then Dick Grayson shows up with chili dogs at the end for the celebration.
Well, I'm saying DC, you could have hired us. Like we could have written this for you.
I mean, Big the Cat and Batman teaming up. Like, it just writes itself.
Well, Big the Cat is gonna catch Aquaman. With
Like a hook in his mouth.
He's like, my bad.
Aquaman is like, oh my God, get it out, get it out.
Are there any frog superheroes in DC? Big the Cat's gonna
Probably.
mistake Froggy for whatever.
I mean, it's too bad that they didn't cross over with Marvel because we do have Thor Frog in Marvel, but I don't know if DC has any frogs.
I mean, that goes to tell you which company's better right there.
Thor frog?
Yeah.
What the?
Yeah, we have Alligator Loki and Bullfrog Thor.
It makes sense, Christina.
I'm not high enough for this conversation. Like, I think that's the problem. I am not nerdy enough, nor am I high.
Oh,
my
no,
gosh.
I can buy that second part, but not the first part.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah. I can't remember now.
Let's see. They announced Power Wash Simulator 2. That's coming out this year. They announced it for all consoles except for Nintendo consoles.
Oh, I was about to say, yay, Alicia. Oh.
Well, let's think about that. Why would they not announce
Switch
it
2
for a Nintendo console?
Switch 2.
Because Nintendo hasn't announced any games technically for the Switch 2. So
Yeah.
Okay,
No.
Alicia, it's coming.
it's almost assuredly coming to Switch 2.
Yeah, I'm very excited. It was so again, I messaged you all because I go into work with my mom when I go home once in a while, at least once to go see because I worked there, and it was at AR North America, which manufactures pressure washers. So I'm like, it's the perfect time.
Yeah, I'll be interested to see this. I really liked that first game, but by the end of that first game, I kind of had my fill of it. And so I wonder, is this going to just be more of the same, or how much can they mix up the format?
That's what I was thinking. I was like, why not just have more DLC? Like, what are
Right.
they going to do?
Well, you're going to new locations, you're getting new tools, and I think the big thing that warranted a sequel rather than is that they're going to add split screen co-op.
Oh. So you can power wash with other people?
I mean, you could always do co-op, but it was just but now it'll be split screen, so it'll be easier.
You can couch co-op easier.
Yeah.
Sorry. Maybe it's just because of spring break, just sitting on my couch. It's the thought of just sitting there, just power washing things. Man, I guess it.
Don't knock it till you try it.
I mean, fair.
Yeah.
I watch that's one of the genres of YouTube videos I watch to fall asleep. Is power washing. So
Yeah.
Actual power washing or the game? Okay.
yeah. Actual that and
There's a lot of people who find that very relaxing.
I do that, and it fits in a similar category as pool restoration. They'll clean out pools, or mowing lawns or stuff for whatever reason. I know.
I'm just saying here watching the grass grow and then get mowed.
No, you don't watch it grow. It's just they pick houses that are already really overgrown, and they're like, hey, you want me to take care of this for free? Yeah. And
Nice.
then they do it.
Yeah, I can imagine how this game sounds uninteresting to you with that riveting content.
Sleep time, YouTube.
Yeah, but just now imagine if you could power wash Cloud's motorcycle, though, instead of just
You do get
somebody's
to.
sidewalk, their driveway.
Or Lara Croft's mansion.
No.
Hey, that Nepo baby, Lara Croft, what if you could go to her house and wash it for her? You don't get to play as Lara Croft, you get to wash her house for her. Like how subjugated are Americans that we think entertainment at this point is, hey, the exciting character that we created for video games, what if you could do all the work that they hire poor people to do? You can pay us to do the work of poor people for the fictional rich video game characters.
Yeah. Late stage capitalism.
At least those DLCs were free.
I mean, I give them complete credit for releasing so much free DLC for that.
Yeah.
For sure.
Let's see. In less happy news, the CEO of Roblox, Dave Bazuki? Yeah, I think so. Gave a message to parents in an interview where he said, if you're not comfortable, don't let your kids on Roblox. So this was in response. They had asked him a question about, safety for children. And his response was, hey, if you're not comfortable, just don't let your kids play it.
I would just like to clarify, did they ever get rid of the Roblox dating thing?
I'm not 100% sure.
Obviously, everybody's only 18 that uses that, Alicia.
Yeah. Oh.
This is pretty lousy thing to say.
Honestly, yeah.
I mean, just that's not my problem. It kind of is.
Yeah. I mean, there is something to be said for take more accountability in your parenting and don't let your but also like I did so many things that my parents weren't comfortable with as a child.
I think the problem is like this is not like the creators of Mortal Kombat saying don't let your kids play our game.
Yeah.
Because our game is obviously not targeted at kids.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, it is, but it isn't. Like
Right.
But they can make an argument that it's not.
But Roblox is very much targeted at kids.
Yeah.
So this is more like Chuck E. Cheese saying, hey, you don't want your kids eating our pizza? Don't bring them here.
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, but you're marketing directly to them.
Exactly.
Yeah. And I guarantee you all their friends are playing it and they're going to be left out and sad.
Right. So like I do not begrudge parents for saying, hey, Chuck E. Cheese, can you make your product slightly healthier because we're bringing our kids here? Like I don't feel like Chuck E. Cheese's response at that point should be just don't bring them.
Yeah.
Like, and I feel like
That just sounds like bad business practice.
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, which this feels like abdicating of any responsibility.
Yeah.
That's exactly what it is. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's like, dude, you put a dating thing on your game and
It's also like all of the memes that I see about like kids asking like, can I use your phone to play Roblox or whatever it is? It's like your game is synonymous like with children's games. Like it's
The reason
pretty scummy.
It's the reason none of us have experience with that.
Yeah.
Because it's not a game that older people play,
right.
Yeah.
right? It's a game that children play and young children at that, right? Like it's not even a game I hear teenagers playing.
Right.
Really.
Yeah. It's pretty scummy of him.
Well, Roblox seems like a pretty scummy company.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's see. Nate the Hate has claimed that Elder Scrolls 4 Oblivion remake is set to be announced extremely soon and also released soon. So the implication seems to be that within the next couple of weeks, we may get an announcement for this game, and then it would get released sometime in, like, say, the first half of this year. So, like, before July. This is an Unreal Engine 5 remake of Oblivion. So, trying to bring it up to more modern standards and everything. I think one of the things that's really interesting about that game now in hindsight is people talk about that game and like how outdated and bad it looks. And people seem to forget that that was one of the first showpiece titles for the Xbox 360. Like that was one of the first games that everybody ran out and bought because it looked unlike anything that had been available previously.
Yeah.
And now to hear people be like, oh, that game looks so bad and outdated. And it does. I mean, like particularly the character models look like terrifying. But, it just shows you how far we've come since that console generation. And like I think I've said before, of those Elder Scrolls games, I liked Oblivion better than Skyrim. I played more of it. I got further into that game. Let's see. Asus is building a portable Xbox to be released this year, titled Project Keenan. This seems to be Xbox's way of getting a handheld system out more quickly, that they're teaming with Asus to essentially, it's not clear if it's going to be a rebranding. The rumors are that it will be styled to look more like an Xbox, have an Xbox guide button on it and everything. It's not entirely clear if it will simply be a portable PC like all of those systems are, or if Microsoft will help them in some way to get it actually playing Xbox games. So you could download your old Xbox games and play them on this new handheld system.
Yeah. So it's really interesting considering like one of the things we've been talking about is how it seems like Xbox and Microsoft is moving away from like consoles. But I guess like portable is kind of like with the massive success of the Switch, like, I guess it's like, well, if we're going to do this at all, this is how we need to approach it.
I think from their perspective, right, like the Switch and the Steam Deck are huge competitors at this point. And they are trying to get into this market quick before they get a stranglehold on this portable gaming market.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And even though you can buy Xbox games on Switch and on Steam, right? Like neither of those are using Windows.
Yeah.
Right.
And I could definitely see the appeal of like portable Game Pass if that's something that could be that could run on it.
And that does run on non-Steam Deck portable PCs that are running Windows. You can already install the Xbox app. But my understanding, I have not played with one of those, but I can imagine, is that it's a very clunky affair because essentially you're running Windows and opening like these separate apps and everything versus the Steam Deck, which is a very sort of, at least an attempt at a consoleized interface.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm interested in this, particularly if this means that Xbox is finally going to make that leap where your Xbox library will play on PC. Because like I think that's where this eventually ends up, right? Is that these portable handhelds are essentially an Xbox. They can play the back catalog of Xbox games. They've done all that work to make those games backwards compatible. You know, so the idea that I could play Blinks the Time Sweeper on my PC or my portable, console is like honestly kind of exciting.
Yep.
Yeah.
So we'll see what comes with that. Let's see. Pokemon Go. This story's a little old. This happened over spring break, but Pokemon Go and Niantic's other games have been sold off to Scopely. They are the Monopoly Go makers. They were sold off for $3.5 billion.
Oh no. Thoughts.
Yeah. This is what I meant where I was like, I don't know if I'm excited about all the news on here, but I definitely have thoughts on all of it. I don't know. Just maybe we're overreacting. Maybe they won't mess with what makes Pokemon Go so great, but the vibe on like Reddit and YouTube and that is like, okay, so we've probably got another year of Pokemon Go being what it is, and then it's going to turn into microtransactions and pay to play, and
It's going to turn into Monopoly Go with ads all over Facebook and wanting you to link your account and get your friends to send you coins.
And just I am not excited about this.
I mean, I would say the one optimistic thing to possibly consider is Pokemon Go is still generating quite a bit of money. Mm-hmm. So you sort of like don't want to mess with that too much because it's actually going to recoup this investment, this $3.5 billion, if you just leave it alone for a few years.
Yeah.
And I can see the sort of what you're talking about, Alicia, happening when the user base starts to fall off.
Yeah.
When that game really begins to die, that's when they'll do this. But like right now, it doesn't feel like that seems like the most idiotic thing to do after this purchase is to go in with this game right now.
Oh yeah, no, it would definitely. People are saying, we've got a year or two, but just to expect that moving forward, that it will happen in the next 5 years.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's probably true. That at some point it does go that way, but I don't think the immediate future for it is that.
Yeah.
I mean, I could be wrong. Game companies do really stupid things sometimes. But.
I hope that you're right. I am choosing to believe that as well because, it would be incredibly stupid for them to just like flip a switch right now.
Yeah, I mean, Pokemon Go makes a lot of money right now.
Yeah.
So, you want to recoup that investment. I mean, and they want to collect as much data as possible because that's the real value of owning Pokemon Go, right? Like, I mean, you don't want to chase away the players right now because they're both bringing in money and they're giving you all this mapping data.
Yep.
Yeah.
Let's see. Chrono Trigger is turning 30 and God of War is turning 20. Both have announced different projects that include books and concerts and different things, but neither of them has announced anything regarding games. And I think this is kind of interesting because both of these seem like, they've done these HD 2D remasters of the first 6 Final Fantasies. Chrono Trigger seems perfectly primed to get that treatment. And, the original God of War games apparently are incredibly popular on the PSN service, the streaming service. But that also seems like the sort of thing, like, put out remasters of those first 3 games, like in a package on PlayStation.
I know they did. I think the last one that they did, there might even be one with the PSP games. PSP? PS Vita? I don't remember. But it had like all 5. I think it was on PS3, maybe PS4, but they're still as popular as they are. I could certainly see them releasing them again.
Well, and plus, with PlayStation's move to releasing games on PC, right?
Oh, sure.
Then you think, okay, you can put out those classic games on PC.
Yeah, those would probably sell. I would probably buy it if you did a
Honestly.
1 through 3 collection.
Yeah,
At the
me
very,
too.
like I said, I would probably buy it regardless if it had the mobile games or not. If they did a 1 through 3 package, I'd probably buy that.
Yeah.
Yeah, so those haven't been announced. That doesn't mean they're not going to do them.
Yeah.
And it seems like it would make the most sense to announce something like this year while you're on an anniversary for these games.
Yeah. I almost said, there's still time. It's only February. And then I realized it's mid-March.
Let's see. Halo Season 1 has cracked Netflix's top 5.
I see what you did
I see
there.
what you did there.
You know me. For those listening who don't get our joke, it's because people want to see John Halo's butt. That's the reason they're watching Season 1. Trust me, that is the only reason anyone should watch Season 1.
It's a good
Wait, isn't there a dog too?
Well, there's a story of a dog.
Do you not actually see the dog?
I don't think you do.
What's the point?
Because I think he's talking about like
Because
his
you see the
childhood
butt,
dog.
Alicia.
No, I mean, what's
Is
the point
Halo
of a
just
dog
John Wick?
I mean, basically, his name is John. I mean, that series is bad. Like,
I just remember when it first came out and OJ talking about like trying to watch the first 3 episodes and falling asleep like multiple nights in a row trying to watch them.
the only reason OJ got through that first season was because I told him you saw his butt at some
Yeah.
point.
Yeah.
Wouldn't be surprised if OJ like fast forward. But
I can't speak to that. I mean, it's weird that that's the thing, that his butt and the dog are the things that are like memorable about that first season, because there's nothing else memorable about it. It is the most boring. Like, you take Halo, this great action franchise, and you just turn it into the most boring and dull series.
Yeah.
And I heard the second season is a little better, but like, I don't even know if I believe that.
but then you have to get through season. Did you finish season 1?
I did.
Oh,
I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'm like, that doesn't entice me, because then I'd have to get through season 1. I haven't even searched through for the butt. Like, I'm
sure you can find it if
I
you
was going
like
to say, I'm sure that it's on
search
YouTube.
which episode.
Give me the timestamp.
Yeah, give me
Yeah.
the timestamp.
I guarantee you Reddit's top post on the show is the timestamp for the butt.
What was that website? Mr. Skin. Do you remember that
Yes.
being advertised?
Yes.
What?
It was this website that would tell you where nudity was in a film. Like, this is like an old website, like in late 90s.
Listen, Alicia, back in the day.
Oh my
Look,
gosh.
before streaming,
Before streaming, before free online things, you had to go to a website and be like, where can I find boobies? And then it would give you a list of boobies.
Oh my gosh.
yeah, so this is interesting because, if this is a big hit on Netflix, you sort of start to think, does Netflix consider ordering like more Halo?
I need more butt. Like, in each episode with a tuchus.
At least once an episode,
Yes.
you should see somebody's butt.
Oh my gosh.
What a great gag that would be.
That would be that would get me to watch season 3.
Or
If
make
they did-
it's either a butt or a dog. Like that way.
No, I
you
think it needs to be
audience-
both.
A dog's butt.
Oh, you know what? Yep. I would watch for the dog's butt.
No, I have dogs. I can see dog butt anytime.
Different reasons. Listen, different reasons.
Man, we need to clip that.
Listen,
Out of context.
do not clip that, please.
There's the title of your episode. I can see dog.
Oh, I'm literally.
That might get flagged by the.
I have written 3 already that are from the last 3 minutes.
Quit writing things, both of you.
I'm sorry. I think Mario's right. I don't think that's getting topped. That wasn't even your statement. What are you exasperated over?
I don't know.
Have you even looked at the last few episode titles? Because
Yeah.
they're not good.
I mean, literally, I've written for potential episode titles, it's a me? And then the last 4 have been from the last 3 minutes of, I haven't even searched through for the butt. I need more butt. Each episode it took us, and I can see dog butt anytime I want.
OJ would be so proud.
Yes.
Let's see. Indie game Blow Bun has generated some headlines because it offers a lesbian toggle in its settings. And if you click the lesbian toggle, it removes any lesbians from the game. The catch is that the main character of this little puzzle game is a lesbian.
Yep.
So it removes your character from the game. You cannot play the game.
I'm thinking about writing a paper over this just because, I think it's in a very, gay, campy, sassy way. It's just making a statement. I don't know. I think this is really cool.
Yes.
Well, this is, I thought immediately of the queer erasure from film and television,
Yes,
right?
yes,
That
exactly.
you introduce a gay character, you immediately kill them off.
Yep.
Walking Dead was notorious for that. And so this, to me, felt like very much a commentary on that.
Yes. And there's even in queer spaces, there's a lot of sapphic lesbian erasure. So even, especially there's a lot of discourse around bi women being upset that lesbian women don't validate them, and so it gets messy. And so I think specifically that it has a lesbian toggle as opposed to queer toggle makes it even more even more interesting. I'm excited to dive in deeper to the game, honestly.
So apparently this came about because a friend of theirs developing another game had included they had billboards, and they were making joke billboards for the game.
Yeah.
And they said, well, you should include pride flags on the billboards. And there was a toggle you could, if you clicked it, it would just replace the billboards entirely with pride flags and stuff. I think it was the pride flag. It was something.
Yeah.
And so they were like, well, the developer of this game was like, well, we're taking this to another level, right? And so, yeah, really kind of interesting. That article that I had posted in our chat went into that more detail.
Yeah.
I mean, this feels like the sort of, political activism to some degree that you kind of enjoy seeing in a game, because it's not really inhibiting somebody from enjoying the game, but it is there making a point.
Yeah. It's very clever, It's I think it's great.
For me, I don't know, when I think of art during times like this, I think about it as pushing limits and stuff. And of course, video games as art pushes limits in certain ways, but this for me feels like a more explicit and yet what's the word I'm looking for? I don't know, like what you said, it doesn't necessarily inhibit play unless you're just wanting to erase an identity completely.
Well, and I think it's one of those things where it's this whole false rhetoric of like, oh, the queer people are new. This is a new thing and this new agenda. And it's like, and I think that there's something to be said like, oh, if you were to actually have that world where you could remove queer people, it doesn't actually exist.
Exactly.
Like that's not a thing that's actually possible.
Yeah.
It's the A Day Without Women
Yes.
like campaign.
Yes. Exactly.
Right. Yeah. No, it's smart. Right. And obviously it's getting attention for the game, which I'm sure they're not upset about anyway.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I imagine a lot of people will buy this game just to support something like that.
That was my plan.
Yeah.
Not only do I want to write a paper over it, but a lot of times, if I write a paper, I'll just like watch gameplay, do research, stuff like that. But this one I'll actually buy.
Well, and the other thing I think is really neat here is like, it's not like, I don't know, like Stardew Valley, where a big part of it is romancing characters, and like you can have that be queer or straight or whatever. Like, it's a puzzle game. Is there any influence of this character being lesbian at all? Only for this toggle, which is amazing.
That's the point. Yeah.
Yeah,
It's like that.
Of like, oh, you see that there's this toggle, and you're so scared of having a lesbian character in a friggin' puzzle game that you're gonna turn it off. Well, joke's on you.
It's also that critique of like, oh, I don't mind. You could be gay in your own time. Just don't let me know about it. Blah blah blah. Well, that's erasing a part of someone's identity, even if they're not explicit about the performance of that identity.
Yeah.
So.
Right.
This is still who I am, even when it's not the purpose of this interaction.
Yes.
Well, is the idea that we default to heterosexuality as the norm?
Yes.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
So we assume a character is heterosexual unless it's explicitly stated that they're not.
Exactly.
I mean, it's Celeste, right?
Yeah.
Like Celeste, that the character is transgender, like that's never explicitly stated in the game.
Right.
It's not until the end, right, where they included the little flag on her desk.
in the DLC.
Yeah. And, so like when I was playing that game, I never considered that character was transgender. Like, not because I cared really, but like, there was nothing, they never said it.
Yep.
And so I think in that way, it's a good commentary.
For sure.
Let's see. Final thing. This broke this morning. It apparently leaked, and then Lego just came out and officially confirmed it. Lego is making Pokemon sets in 2026, so next year. They teased this with an image of what appears to be Pikachu's tail. So big shock that one of the Lego sets will almost certainly be a Pikachu little statue in the way that they've made Mario statues and different things.
No, I'm so excited for this because like for the past 3 years we've gotten like the Lego knockoff Pokemon things for my cousin's kids for Christmas, and then this year we were like, okay, no, we're getting them real Lego, and we pivoted and got them Sonic. But I'm very excited.
Oh, those poor children.
Yeah. But I'm very excited that we're getting official Lego Pokemon sets. That's going to be so good.
Can you imagine the excitement of a kid at Christmas? Yay, Legos! Oh, Sonic. Just brutal.
They loved them. They loved them.
Oh, I'm sure they did. Those Sonic and Mario sets seem to be extremely popular.
Yeah.
All right, that does it for news. So that brings us to our big question. And our big question for this week is, which video game do you wish fall fashion lines would lift ideas from?
Was this your idea?
It was.
No.
I don't know exactly what spurred it. I think I was looking at something.
I love it's spring, so we're asking about fall fashion.
Well,
I love it.
Don't they like start like the runway shows and everything? Like start like.
Well, it just was Paris Fashion Week.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Oh. This shows you how cued in I am. Cued into this I am.
I love this kind of stuff. But because it's also like fashion is like it's drag again. Like the only people who actually wear those things are the models and people who like walk on red carpets.
Yeah.
So I love it. But yeah.
All right, Christina, since you're so excited.
So Princess Peach Showtime, of course.
I can see it.
Yeah, right. I mean,
Like her karate outfit.
yes, like I would wear her baker outfit. I'd wear all of them. Like, and then
I'd wear the masked thief.
Yeah, see, she queer icon, Princess Peach.
All right, Alicia.
So I feel like this is a way too obvious answer, but Castlevania Symphony of the Night.
Do you have anything?
I think we were waiting for something else. You're gonna
A
elaborate.
comment on the fashion of Castlevania Symphony of the Night?
I don't know. I feel that just like,
You just want men dressing more like Alucard.
yeah. I want people dressing like Alucard. I guess Symphony of the Night and Aria of Sorrow, just like the whole era of like the Bishonen Castlevania was peak. So
I feel like that's a meme waiting to happen. Like, men, why can't you dress like this every day?
yeah, not all men. You're right. Alucard would never.
All right, Mario.
I think the only game that I can think of where the fashion was noticeable to me was Kingdom Hearts. So give me some big ass shoes and unnecessary zippers.
I was thinking
There
that.
we go. I'm here for it.
Walk around with a giant keyblade.
Lots of buckles all over your clothing
Yep.
in places that don't make any sense.
Yep.
Yep. Just absurd zippers and yeah.
Like, how hard is it to get dressed in the morning?
Very.
Like, I
It's called fashion, Justin.
I feel like you're an aristocratic lady who needs like people dressing her in the morning. Like, I would need assistants like doing all the buckles.
It's called fashion, honey.
Oh my gosh.
I'm actually kind of surprised that Final Fantasy style hasn't caught on, particularly like in Asia, like in South Korea or Japan. Maybe it has. Maybe I'm just not aware.
mean,
I think it is
I was
a
gonna
little
say,
too
it's-
anime at times.
Yeah. I would say it is its own genre in the same way that oh gosh. It is its own genre of fashion.
Part of what is big right now, at least in cities like even New York, Chicago, and bigger cities like in Japan and things like that, is big oversized things. So they kind of look like anime characters minus the buckles and bigger shoes and stuff like that.
Right.
Because it's big jackets with the sleeves popped up and stuff. But that's, I think, as far as it goes.
Okay. Well, we're usually behind
For
Asia,
sure.
so I figure
Yeah.
it'll gets way over here at some point. I'll get to dress like Cloud. Hopefully, I'll still have enough hair by then. I can
Say,
have
you're going to
the
wear a
big
wig.
bouffant. Yeah. So okay, I have two answers. My first answer is the most obvious one is Tony Hawk.
Yeah. Okay. Just
Justin
in
wants
time
to
for the game.
relive the 90s.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
that's
mean,
skater fashion.
The 90s are coming back, aren't they?
they're here in many ways, oddly enough.
We can bring Jinkos back and everything.
I see so many memes for that, and I get a tiny bit excited only because I want to drown in my jeans again.
Look, that's what I'm saying. If any game can influence fashion, Tony Hawk's Pro Skater.
He was a skater boy.
And then the second answer, just because I think it'd be really cool if people dress this way, would be Metroid.
Oh, yeah.
Like if people were walking around in power suits all the time.
So you think of power suits or zero suit?
No, we already have
Yeah,
I feel like that's just yoga wear.
Those
Yeah, that's-
spandex bodysuits are already a thing.
Yeah. It's I want people walking around in armor, like futuristic armor. Look, it's
I feel like
dangerous
that
out
many
there.
guns is a little unsafe, Justin.
What?
That many guns
No,
on
you
people's
don't,
arms.
You don't have to have the arm cannon.
Okay.
Oh, but that's...
That's the best part.
But you could replace that with a flashlight or
Oh, okay.
something.
Like a floodlight. Don't worry. I got it. The power's out.
Oh my gosh.
Useful.
You can fill that armor with batteries. So, like,
And snacks.
that's true snacks. You have a little compartment with like.
I mean, you can do
some
that with the Kingdom
ho-hos.
Hearts outfits too. Just that's what some of the
So
zippers are
true,
for. Is
so
for snack
true.
pouches.
Yeah, but like then you look stupid and not cool like a Metroid.
I just envisioned like Alicia wearing the Kingdom Hearts stuff, Justin being in a Metroid outfit, but then you look stupid.
I'm sorry, I can't hear you over being able to easily access my snacks without having to remove my helmet to eat them.
Nobody said I have to remove my helmet.
He pushes a button and the straw comes down.
Little curly Q straw.
It extends out and curls as it goes right into.
Oh my god.
I'm sitting in the middle of a meeting. You just hear me like slurping.
It's a fantastic. If it's 5 years ago, right as COVID starting, fantastic answer.
Right?
Yeah. I mean, do you remember like in late COVID when people were coming up with like those
Full
helmets?
hazmat suits.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just remember the memes from grocery stores where like people didn't want a mask, but they just did whatever. And so like someone like took a milk carton and like made eye things and just stuck it over there.
And see, I remember the beginning of COVID when everyone was like, "We're supposed to wear masks." Superheroes have trained me my entire life for this.
My favorite meme is still the cats like social distancing, and there's like an image of people waiting in line. There's a cat like standing 6 feet back, and then the woman behind the cat is 6 feet behind the cat.
Oh my gosh.
Like, yeah, that cat needs its milk. Like, let it. All right, that does it for this week's episode. Thank you to Alicia and Mario and Christina for joining me. Thank you for everyone listening. Again, as always, check out salukigames.com so you can find old episodes and other content. And we will be back soon with another episode. Until then, play something fun and enjoy your week.